welcome back to Michelle After Dark. If you are new, welcome. Before we get into today's story, please make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. I also have a vlog channel called thechellebellelife. The link will always be in the description box below. If vlogs are not your thing, then I thank you for being here. So you guys, let me tell you, usually I try to film when no one is home or at night when I know everyone has retired to their bedrooms. That way you guys won't hear that much background noise and distractions. But everyone is up today, living life. So I apologize if the background noise will be a little much, and if you guys can hear it, you probably will, but I'm apologizing in advance, and I'll try to tweak something in editing. Anywho, today's story is different from previous stories because it has a good ending but a not so good leading up to the ending. This story raises the hair on my arms. When I was researching this, I'm telling you, as a person who has lived in apartments in my young adult life for a lengthy amount of time, I can testify that yes, there are attics in apartments, which is accessible to other apartments, right? Mind-blowing and disturbing. Let's get to Heidi's story. So after moving to a new apartment, Heidi noticed her underwears and bras going missing. Homegirl lived alone, so where are they going? Heidi grew up in a small town in Missouri. Population was about 7,000. She had two siblings and they would play outside, and when it got dark, they would have to go inside, kind of like when the street light comes on, you get in the house. Now, Heidi said they never locked their doors growing up because it was a small town, didn't have very much crime, and everyone was trusting. Me personally though, I have always locked my doors. Even if I had to run back in the house real quick just to grab something, I'm coming in, I'm locking the bottom lock at least. Do what I have to do and go out, but I've always locked my doors, always. That's just me. Now, Heidi and her family moved to Kansas when she was in high school. So this town had more crime, so then her family started locking the doors. This whole not locking doors thing just blows my mind. I guess I had to have grown up in that time to truly understand that. But there was a time when I was 18, there was this family in the church, and husband and wife, and they had foster children. So they hired me. They would hire like different people throughout the years, but to help them look after the foster kids, and they would pay me, but I would live there. And their house was on this like huge land and beautiful home. You know, when I think about it to this day, they had a beautiful, gorgeous home, and I never had a key to their house. A lot of people that lived on their property, because family lived on their property, didn't have a key to the house. The lady who hired me, her and her husband, pretty sure they had a key, and it wasn't just me. No one had a key. So when I moved in there, I was the one that was locking doors, and people would come knocking like, who's locking these doors? Me, hello, me. I'm locking the door because we are out in the middle of nowhere and I'm just trying to be safe. Yes, that was me. I locked doors. So yeah. Locking doors has always been something I've done. Okay, let's get back to Heidi. So when Heidi was 21, she decided to move to a larger town in Oklahoma. And so the population there was about 600,000. She moved by herself in an apartment. She got a job waitressing, and her school was not too far from her home. So she did have a car, but she got a place not too far from her school, like I said, and her job, because she thought, hey, if my car breaks down, I can still get everywhere I need to go. I don't need to call into work or take public transportation. I also know how it is being a struggling student and trying to work and make ends meet. And if your car breaks down and you live far, then you are out of luck. So she was living alone, and she had a 40-pound lab. She felt much safer having another living being in the house. And this lab, he didn't bark a lot, which was perfect for apartment living. He was a good companion to have around. The apartments that Heidi lived in, it was family oriented, had lots of kids and families out at the pool. You would see people barbecuing, going in and out doing their laundry. So, you know, people just living their life. Her apartment was on the second floor. It was overlooking the pool, and she had a huge balcony. Her apartment was all the way on one end of the complex. Heidi had been living there a few years. She felt relatively safe and comfortable at this point. She had gained her independence and confidence of living on your own, so she felt all was well. She didn't know her neighbors really well. She would speak to them in passing, which is normally how a lot of times people are. I know personally when I lived in my apartments, I would speak going in and out, you know, but not really holding any huge conversations because I just wanted to keep to myself. I just wanted to be able to live in my apartment and live my life. But you know, you would see people going in and out of their apartment, and you would see their routine, and you would know, okay, they're going to work, or they're coming back from work, they're off this day or whatever. That's just some things you learn about living in apartments next to people that you see every day. So Heidi started noticing her underwear missing, and she thought it was one of those things like, you know how when you do your laundry and one of your socks just decides to jump ship? She thought it was something like that. She didn't think too much of it because during this time in her life, she was kind of absent-minded. Her words, not mine. But for her to notice that the underwear were missing, it had to have been going on a while. So she talked to her mom about it, and her mom said that someone is probably stealing them out of the laundry room when she leaves her clothes in there. So then Heidi started staying with her clothes, bringing a book or a computer or something to keep her company while she's waiting on her laundry. But no underwear were missing when she did her laundry, but somehow they would still be missing. It gives me chills, you guys, just thinking of this. So at this point, she knows it's not being taken while she was actively doing the laundry because she was staying there when she was washing her clothes, and she's the only one that has a key to her place. So who could it be? And she thought it had to be maintenance that were coming in, taking her underwear and bras. And so she called the front office and asked if maintenance were going in when she wasn't there. And they told her absolutely not. We have to give notice before we enter anyone's apartment. She told them about her missing underwear, and the property manager assured her that maintenance was not going in when she was not there. She was like, no, it had to be maintenance because I'm the only one that has a key. So where are my underwear going? It has to be maintenance. So one night she had a friend over to study. Remember I told you she was in college, and Heidi had her cell phone on the table. They had been studying for a while, and Heidi decided that, you know, they needed a break. So this would be a perfect time to take her dog out for a walk. So they were gone only about 20 minutes max. So when she got home, she couldn't find her cell phone. She didn't take it with her because she was like, you know, we're just here going around the complex. There would be no reason to take the phone. So when she got home, her phone was gone. She couldn't find it anywhere. She knew for sure she left it on the table where they were studying. They were using it to look up things that they needed, references and stuff like that. So her and her friend looked for the phone, and it was nowhere to be found. It was like it vanished in thin air. There was a point where Heidi suspected that her friend had taken it, but she knew her friend was an honest person. So how could she take her phone? But Heidi thought she had to have taken it because we were the only two people here. So the phone just disappeared. Heidi just got a new phone, and she kept the same phone number, but the old phone never turned up. Then she started getting calls from a blocked number. The person would just be breathing on the other line. It started happening once a week, then twice a week. It became a daily thing. So one time she answered it, and she heard a dog barking in the background. So she told the person, I can hear you, please say something. Why are you just calling and listening to my voice? So during this time, she didn't tell anyone about the calls, and once again, she just brushed it off. None of her family lived close because remember, she moved away, and she didn't want to tell her parents because she didn't want them to worry, and she didn't want them to say, hey, it's time for you to move back home, because you know, she was an independent woman. She had no enemies, and she pretty much kept to herself. So she continued to live her life and put her focus on work and her studies. Heidi got home late one night. Everything was normal at home. She was on the phone with a friend. Now remember, her dog didn't bark a lot. So she's on the phone talking with her friend, and her dog turns around, runs to her bedroom, and started barking at the closet. Let me tell you, we have a dog also, and he's a Cocker Spaniel. He rarely barks at all. So when he does bark, we're on high alert, because he never barks. So why are you barking? So I don't care what time it is. If he's barking, we're like, what are you barking at? So I get that, I do. And I can imagine how Heidi felt at that moment. So this was definitely different. He ran straight to the closet, which just sends shivers down my spine. There was something in there that he was barking at. And so she was scared to go in there to see what he was barking at, but her dog wouldn't let up. So she just pulled him out and closed the door. She didn't want to call the cops. She didn't want to bug her parents. She didn't want to bother anyone. So she just slept out in the living room that night, which I don't know about y'all, but if I thought that someone or something like a critter maybe could have been up in the roof scurrying around, I'm not just gonna go to sleep if I thought it was an actual person. I would have had to investigate, or I'm gonna be calling somebody because I wouldn't be able to rest until it's taken care of. That's just me. So she woke up the next morning to get ready for work. And you know how it is. If you had a bad dream or watch a scary movie, all things better in the light of day, you're no longer scared and it's all fine, right? So she was looking at the closet and around the room and everything appeared normal. So she went on about her day. So another day, Heidi had came home from work and she found her sliding glass door open. Because remember I said she was on the second floor and she had a balcony. She knows for a fact she didn't leave it open because at this point she was locking up everything when she left for work. So she thought it had to be maintenance that's coming in for whatever reason, and they forgot to close the door and lock it. But apartments are supposed to give you 24-hour notice before they enter your place. But she didn't ask the property manager, and once again she just blew it off. Which, ladies and gentlemen, because men can be stalked too, if you are experiencing strange and weird occurrences, even if you think you are going to sound like a crazy person, please tell someone. Get the story out there. Because remember I said this story has a good ending? Not all of them do. So if you're feeling something weird, trust your gut. Just say something. Just get the story out there. So Heidi was in her living room. It was about 9 or 10 o'clock at night. She was on the phone again and she hears banging on the roof. Remember, she's on the second floor, so it's not like the family above her, you know, is walking around or anything like that. And there's no trees hanging above her apartment, so she didn't know what it was. And at this point, she didn't know that apartments have attics, which they do. I know firsthand. So there was a time I had already had my 3 kids. They were younger, and maintenance gave me notice they were coming in to do work or whatever. So when I got home from work, I noticed that I seen the attic. I don't know, it just caught my eye. It wasn't all the way closed, and I looked up and I hadn't noticed it before, and I'm like, huh, I have an attic? And so my son, he was maybe around 9 or 10 or something like that. He got on a chair and looked, and he said he could see the top of the inside of the houses, and I knew what he meant. So yeah, that's when I realized, because I thought it was just going to be like one space just above my particular apartment, but there was 4 apartments in a row and I could see to the other end of the apartment. It was dark, yes, but apartments have attics. And I know you guys are probably like pausing the video if you live in apartments and looking to see if you have attic access. And it's not like you can get to each and every apartment, but you can get to certain apartments that they have the attic access there. So not trying to make anyone afraid, just be aware. So Heidi finally called her mom, which her mom at this time was an apartment manager for apartments in her hometown. And she let her know that some apartments have the attic access in their closets, which once again, it's really creepy to think about someone being in your attic. They're not in every apartment, like I said, but some of them have them. So her mom told her to go check and see if there's an attic access. So she goes home and first thing she does is check, and sure enough, in her closet where her dog was barking, there she can see the board to where the attic is. But she said it wasn't secured, which they don't lock them. It's just like a piece of wood on top of this opening. And the way it was sitting, it was like someone didn't put it back properly, so you were able to see like the darkness that's in there. So because she was the only one in her family that lived there, her mom actually knew someone that lived in her town. So she called that person. That person was in law enforcement. And so she let them know, hey, there's some weird stuff going on. Please keep an eye out for my daughter. So he eventually comes over and she finally tells him about all the strange things that's been happening, from the phone calls to her underwear being missing and the dog barking. And at first he was looking for pinholes to see if someone placed cameras in there and was watching her, but he couldn't find any. He actually suggested for her to get cameras, but come on, she's a student and you know how struggling students are. She didn't have the money to waste on getting cameras at the time, and that just wasn't an option. So she felt that at that point he was just doing her mom a favor by looking in on her, and he pretty much brushed her off. So by now Heidi had ran out of underwear, and yes, we're back to the chonies. So at this point she had said she just stopped wearing underwear. She was like, You can't take what I don't have. So she went commando, and then the phone calls were still coming in. And there was one time she went to a friend's house for a swim party. When she got home, she couldn't find the top to her swimsuit, and she was like, why would I leave the top there? Or maybe I just accidentally left the top there. Called her friend and asked if her top to her swimsuit was there, and they were like, no, it's not here. So the calls were still coming in. She decided to get an app on her phone that unblocks numbers. So she called the number back and the man answered. She asked, are you the one that's been calling me? And he said, no, I don't even know who you are. He sounded very sincere on the phone, but calls were definitely coming from that number. He then said his brother uses the phone from time to time, so maybe it was his brother that was reaching out to her. So she told him next time he calls, she's going to call the cops now that she has the information. And the guy on the phone said, oh, there's no way my brother's doing that. He's such a good guy. It can't be him. But after that conversation, the call stopped. So now, even though her underwear weren't being stolen because she wasn't wearing any, and the calls stopped, she still wasn't putting two and two together. She was basically in denial because she didn't want to think of the worst that can happen. So things died down for a while, and there was no more strange occurrences for several months. So Heidi graduated from school and she got a job in her profession. She's going on living life. So one day as she's getting ready for work, she gets a call from her apartments. And the property manager told her that they're going to be installing lights in her attic. That way, when someone drives in the parking lot, it's like an automatic timer, and they need to have access to her attic, which is in her bedroom. So she said, okay. And that day she put her dog in the bathroom, closed the door, and went on to work. So towards the end of her shift that day, she got a call from the apartment, and she felt that it was important because she was like, they've never called me at my work before. So her first thought was that they opened the door, her dog got out, or he bit someone or something like that. Her first thought was, oh my goodness, what's going on with my dog? So when she gets on the phone and says hello, the property manager passed the phone to an officer, and he said, how soon can you get home? More thoughts about her dog was going through her head. She thought that the apartment was on fire, her dog was dead, and you know, that's where her mind went, because cops just don't call you to chat. She asked him, she said, what's going on? This is what he tells her. So the maintenance guys were up in your attic to install the lighting. They were up there and they found a bunch of underwear and pictures of you, your mail, a knife, condoms, mace, lube, and porn. She immediately left work, and then things are starting to make sense to her. At that point, she felt that, hey, I wasn't going crazy. Something was going on. But at the same time, it was terrifying to think that someone has been tormenting her during a span of 1.5 years that she was there. So when she got home, the police told her that there were holes that were drilled in her ceiling, like above her toilet, above her shower, in her kitchen, in her bedroom. So remember the person that came in from law enforcement before and he didn't see anything? He actually should have got up into the attic and checked. This would have solved it sooner, but someone was watching her in her apartment from her attic. Maybe they were only noticeable if you were in the attic, so he should have actually got up there and checked for her. If he was doing her mom a favor, he would have did a more thorough job. So this person had been watching her in the shower, on the toilet, in her bedroom, in the kitchen, everywhere. She was in shock this was actually happening to her. But the police found him pretty quick, and I'll tell you how. Heidi lived on one end of the apartments, and there were only 2 apartments that had an attic access. So she was on one end, and it was this house on the other end that had the attic access as well. So the ones in the middle didn't have the attic. So remember, like I said, some apartments don't have them. It doesn't mean there's none in the whole apartment complex. It just means that your particular apartment does not have one. So this was pretty much a crime of opportunity. He would climb up there, cut across the firewall, and crawl over to where she is and watch her. So he also drilled holes in other apartments, one being a little girl's room, which this whole thing sickens me. And now the fact that he was watching a little girl. So they arrested him that night, and because they found more of Heidi's underwear in his apartment, he just admitted to it. And he was married with kids. His wife and kids lived there, y'all. Heidi had to go in to identify her underwear, which I don't like people looking at my underwear, and the fact that the cops have it, someone had it, and you're, yep, that's mine. Had not maintenance gone up there, you guys, what would happen? All the stuff that he had up there, what was he planning? He had a whole kit up there that he was about to assault her. He was going to assault her. So she went to court and he got 8 years. But he was illegal here in the country, so ICE also deported him. She doesn't even know where he is. And so he is living free in his country. Hopefully he didn't make his way back here, but yeah, he's not here, but he's still out there somewhere. Heidi doesn't even remember seeing him in the complex. Like, you know how there's neighbors that you will see because you live around them, and even though he lived on the other end, she doesn't even remember seeing him or meeting him at all. That's when she decided to move out of that town, and then she started telling people her story. Telling people who lived in apartments to beware of their attic access. This could have ended a whole lot worse, y'all. Moral of the story is don't ignore your instincts. God gave us those for a reason, and make sure you tell people what's going on. If you guys have an attic in your apartments, I'm not trying to put fear in you, but I know one of the things that I was told to do when I found out I had that attic is put a piece of tape on it, and like tape on the door of the attic and the tape on the ceiling, and then that way if it's been moved, someone's been up there or whatever. So not trying to make you afraid or anything like that, but that is something that can happen. And I think that if they need to make these accessible for maintenance, there should be a way that it should be locked. So what do you guys think about this story? Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up. Let me know what other cases you would like me to cover. Be safe, be well, and I will see you guys in the next video.